Okay, jumping right in. Don't want to make it a long video because we're pressed for time, but it has been a while since our last video because it is impossible to keep up with the deluge of negative stories created by the Drumpf rain cloud. But now, due to the fact that Bob Woodward's book, notes, and audio recordings have surfaced, thankfully, showing what a liar and a traitor and a criminal Drumpf is, there are now an amazing amount of discontent with this despicable clown. Drumpf knew early on how incredibly dangerous, deadly, infectious, and transmissible the virus was. He knew all about it, was completely informed.
Trump told Bob Woodward on February 7th, before any known American deaths from the virus, that he knew COVID-19 was airborne and a deadly threat.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
3 weeks later, President Trump told the American people a totally different story.
It's a little like the regular flu that we have flu shots for.
This thing is a killer if it gets you. If you're the wrong person, you don't have a chance.
Yes, exactly.
Now,
This is a monster.
Apart.
This is a scourge, and
It is the plague.
Due to Drumpf's enormous bravado, it thought that it could somehow outwit or fool Bob Woodward, whose primary purpose is to sit down, interview Drumpf, ask straight questions, and get straight answers.
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one.
Drumpf thought he could manage one of the most respected journalists in the business. The business is just honesty, asking Drumpf important questions that the public wants to know the answer to, and Drumpf responding. Woodward engaged, Drumpf blathered on like the imbecile it is, giving away an enormous amount of ground on issues that are critical to the health of America, both the population's health and well-being physically, and our economy, which is inextricably connected to that. Drumpf is too stupid to know that the best course of action would have been to simply tell the medical experts, like Dr. Fauci, what do we need to do, ask them what we need to do, and give them every single resource to accomplish what they think is what needs to be done. Period. That's it. Drumpf could have looked like a genius, the genius it thinks it is, which it isn't. It could have looked like the hero that it pretends to be, that it isn't. The cowardly, draft-dodging, bone spurs inventing sissy could have had it all. All it had to do was manage the coronavirus pandemic with absolute competence and authority. Instead, Drumpf did the opposite. Now we know that. We've heard the tapes. Just to refresh everyone's mind about what a liar and an idiot and a murderous, anti-American, treasonous piece of shit Drumpf is. Being medical doctors for nearly 3 decades now has given us first-hand knowledge of malpractice and how malpractice insurance and the surrounding elements of treatment work, how those work, what your responsibilities are, the Hippocratic Oath, simple things that a normal, conscientious doctor would do. Drumpf withheld the most valuable of information to people's health and well-being. If a doctor told you, while you were being treated for an infectious disease, not to worry about it, that it'll miraculously go away, for instance, when it warms up.
You know, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. We're in great shape, though.
And you know, in April, supposedly it dies with the hotter weather.
That could fall two ways. One, the doctor was a complete and utter incompetent and was just making an off-the-cuff diagnosis without testing and looking at lab results. That's an incompetent. The other is someone who's deliberately malicious. And that is critical malpractice, where they test you, they know you have an illness. Let's just say you get a test and it shows that you have colorectal cancer. And your doctor sees the test, knows what the test means, knows how to interpret the lab results, and knows firsthand and full well that you have developed colorectal cancer. Let's say that it's somewhat advanced, and your prognosis is not good, and that surgery has to be done in the next 2 months to give you high survivability probabilities, so that your probability of survival after the surgery is greater than 75%. But without the surgery, your chances of dying are 100% within 4 months. So let's say the Dr. Drumpf is told all about it, and then meets with a reporter and brags about what it knows about your test results, but doesn't tell you, under the guise that it's preventing you from panicking.
I've warned several times that if Joe Biden is elected president, that there will be an invasion in suburban neighborhoods. It's a sentiment that you expressed in a tweet again this morning. What exactly do you mean by invasion?
What I mean is people are going to become, they're going to be opening up areas of your neighborhood, which they're doing, and now they're going to do, they wanted to expand it, and they will expand it. If for any reason they're going to, in my opinion, destroy suburbia.
So it just withholds it entirely. And then you die. At that point, family members have the ability to sue you into oblivion if you were a doctor. That would be the end of you and your career forever. That's what Drumpf has done. Drumpf is an incurable fraud, a coward, a liar, an idiot, and a traitor who does not care at all about human life and doesn't care about Americans' lives. That's where we're at now, of what this idiot has said to Bob Woodward, that it knew long before it started to make things up, lie to the general public, and treat an infectious disease pandemic as a PR and marketing problem. The pandemic doesn't care about Donald Trump and how he looks in front of the public. It doesn't care. It's an infectious disease. It's not even alive. It's not even a living microbe. This is what Drumpf did. Here are Drumpf's own words going back and forth. This should give voters all they need to make a competent decision in early voting and absentee ballots, mail-in votes, before November 3rd and on November 3rd at the ballot box, or any time with early voting in the ballot box before then. It's obvious who you should vote for. You should always vote your heart. But take a look at this, and then see what your heart tells you. This is an animal who could care less about you or anyone else. All it cares about is itself. And whatever it touches turns to shit. Just like this. Vote wisely.
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one.
This thing is a killer if it gets you. If you're the wrong person, you don't have a chance.
Yes, exactly.
Now,
This is
this
a monster.
rips you apart.
This is a scourge. And
It is the plague.
This is deadly stuff.
3 weeks after that call, the president said this to the public.
It's a little like the regular flu that we have flu shots for. And we'll essentially have a flu shot for this in a fairly quick manner. Yeah, go ahead.
In that February 7th interview, it's clear that the president knows what the stakes are, but he's not sharing that with the public at that time.
Yes, this is the tragedy. A president of the United States has a duty to warn. The public will understand that, but if they get the feeling that they're not getting the truth, then you're going down the path of deceit and cover-up.
And we are going to be okay. We're going to be okay, and it is going away, and it's probably going to go away now a lot faster because of the vaccine. It would go away without the vaccine, George, but it's going to go away a lot faster with it.
It would go away without the vaccine?
Sure, over a period of time. Sure, with time it goes
And many
away.
deaths.
And you'll develop herd, like a herd mentality. It's going to be herd developed, and that's going to happen. That will all happen. But with the vaccine, I think it will go away very quickly.
Got to take a quick
But
break.
I really believe we're rounding the corner, and I believe that's strong.
As you know, Dr. Fauci disagrees with that.
Well, I mean, but a lot of people do agree with me.
Did you mislead?
Well, I think if you said in order to reduce panic, perhaps that's so. The fact is, I'm a cheerleader for this country. I love our country. And I don't want people to be frightened. I don't want to create panic, as you say. Our nation has been gripped by professional anarchists, violent mobs, arsonists, looters, criminals, rioters, Antifa, and others. A number of state and local governments have failed to take necessary action to safeguard their residents.
Woodward's longtime colleague Carl Bernstein saying it is evidence of a crime against America.
We are listening to the President of the United States on tape, deliberately undermining the security of the national security of the United States, the health and well-being of the people of the United States, and he's doing this knowingly, in real time. It is the smoking gun of his negligence.
Rival Joe Biden also speaking out.
He lied to the American people. He knowingly and willingly lied about the threat it posed to the country for months. He had the information. He knew how dangerous it was. And while this deadly disease ripped through our nation, he failed to do his job on purpose.
Scientific breakthroughs don't care about calendars any more than the virus does. They certainly don't adhere to election cycles. And their timing, their approval, and their distribution should never, ever be distorted by political considerations. They should be determined by science and safety alone. A vaccine would offer a way back to normalcy and a path toward better days for all of us, not only here but around the world. But it's not going to happen overnight. Once we have it, it's going to take months to distribute it to the entire population. I'm more hopeful than ever in the power of science to get us there. But one thing is certain, we can't allow politics to interfere with the vaccine in any way. Americans have had to endure President Trump's incompetence and dishonesty when it comes to testing and personal protective equipment. We can't afford to repeat those fiascos when it comes to a vaccine, when it occurs. The stakes are too high. American families have already suffered and sacrificed too much. So let me be clear. I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either.